program is still this morning on ITV, and we're still reaching you live and directly here from Benin City. Now, the insecurity in the country, it's so alarming, especially in the northern parts of the country. And if you put your record straight, you will agree that for an onward of about 10 years, it's been a whole big story of insecurity in the northern part. Well, before now, some people will say that it is northwest that seems to be insecure, while some other persons will say that it is in northeast that is only insecure. But the way it stands now, when we talk about insecurity in the north, it spreads across all the northern parts of the country. Now, recently, to be precise, on Sunday, we saw the recent reports whereby some farmers were said to have been killed by Boko Haram. As a matter of fact, Shekau has owned up, one of the leaders of a sect of the Boko Haram. He has owned up to say that his group is actually responsible for the massacre of the 47 farmers. Now, these were farmers that were going to their rice farm to harvest their rice for the year, only for them to have met their Waterloo. And what seems to be very, very disturbing about the report is that we're having conflicting reports, conflicting numbers of the people that are actually dead, that actually died. Now, the federal government has said that 47, and we all understand that only yesterday some northern leaders came up to say that it is actually 76, against the backdrop also that the United Nations has also said that it is in a total range of about 177. So all these are somehow contradictory, looking at the reports of the actual people that died in Zembari local government of Borno State. Well, to look at all this this morning, we are so privileged to have Malam Nuruddin Asulude, who is an Islamic scholar and, of course, a public affairs analyst, also a political analyst too. So you're welcome to the program this morning on ITV.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
good morning, viewers.
Malam Nuruddin, anytime we talk about the Boko Haram insurgency in the north, you always hear the federal government say that the Boko Haram has been technically defeated. Now, what do you think exactly the federal government is talking about when they say Boko Haram has been technically defeated?
Well, if you took the recent development and you try to yoke it to the fact that for about a decade now, life in that part of the country had been so despondently random and pathologically chaotic, you would tend to say that all that the government had done is to regale in cruel mendacity. But the truth of the matter is that if we had what you refer to as the KPI, Key Performance Index, from when they started and now, you have all of those indicators that you use in measuring, because whatever cannot be measured does not exist, so to speak. The government is not being economical with the truth. All that they do now is, of course, covert, what in military circle they will refer to as covert operation, which of course would show the fact that they have been greatly enfeebled. They are no longer frontal, they are no longer as confrontational as they used to be. So you hide to strike. And that is consistent with how insurgencies and terrorists operate, whether it is in the Shabab region, like you find in Kenya, like you find in the Posha region, like the Tamil Tigers used to do. When they are greatly weakened, they no longer have the capacity to be confrontational or to be frontal. All they do is to go behind the scene to do this. Also, that's what they've done over time. Because if you look at between 2016 and today, they have been greatly weakened. They have been greatly. So I want to give that to the government. Yes, they have done. They've done something that had made these persons to now regale in covert operation.
All right, so when government says that Boko Haram has been technically defeated, so you are saying...
I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah, but we're not saying that coming out in terms of security of lives and properties in the north. If you go to most parts of the north, we're told, as a matter of fact, that in this particular local government, Zembari local government in Borno State, that farmers have to pay Boko Haram to go to their farms.
No, you see, when we say people pay, Do not forget that before now, the flags of Boko Haram were flying in different parts of the Northeast. That does not exist technically today. There are conflicting stories, except that you fear being tagged as one who is insensitive, one who is, who lacks empathy and stuff like that. Those who got killed, have you bothered to find out if there was a relationship? Because there is a tape I watched, one of your sister channels interviewed somebody and who said, we got invited. We thought they wanted us to come and help them carry loads like we used to do for them in the past. That's relational. It will mean there was a relationship. And so they were lured. So if like you invited me and I have always known you, okay, come participate in this program this morning. There's already a relationship. And I came, it was a different ball game. And
we also have another story that it's more or less like a retaliatory, attack. That, some of these villagers, some of these farmers were said to have, captured one of the insurgents, for the federal forces. So in an attempt to, revenge, so to say, they had to kill those farmers.
Well, that is equally possible. That could be true. But again, it is the kind of prize or the dilemma one finds itself when one doesn't have the capacity for consistency. Because if you double deal, it's like in the days of Lawrence and a particular medical doctor killed and visited the MD of everybody. But much later, even NMA was beginning to roll out plans on how to take care of the family members of the slain doctor, only to discover that he was one of those rendering medical services to the Anenico. Except that when the heat was on, he went with we had to this together.
All right, the media to the president, Gabashew, came out with what some have described as a very offensive, position that the farmers ought to have sought for so that the federal government can provide some form of security for them to go to their farms to harvest their products. So many analysts, that is quite laughable. I don't know what to make of this kind of thing.
Except that I do not have the details, the context in which that statement was made, and the full details of what was said by Shehu. So I don't want to be too critical. But if it is the way people have presented it, whereas it may be correct, but I'm saying that the timing was wrong, it shows some insensitivity, because it's like a macabre dance on the grave of those who had been slain, even if they committed an error. He did. He was not going to make any points. There was value that was added to what I was going to say if he had left that. But again, that day was supposed to be an election day.
In Borno
State,
yeah.
Which would mean there was restriction of movement.
Yeah, not in all parts of.
Now, if there was restriction of movement, well, I don't know whether that part was affected.
Yeah, local government elections.
It will equally mean that the attention of the military that has been overstretched would have been focused on the issue. If you were going to expect any target, it would be people who were coming out to vote, because Boko Haram has never pretended to hate them. And so the constitution that we have to appreciate the timing and the wisdom behind the pressure of the group called Boko Haram. Okay, when the attention is shifted from us, we'll strike at today, let's strike at today. But then there was just no way military grants into the totality of those forces who operate. That's why I said it was in course we speak. It was not a point that was the totality of all the men.
And also, too, you were saying that there was a very time that farmers had clearance, Borno State farms, and that this day they did that military.
So a question, I don't know what value it added, whatever content may. It was true. It would have been enough to say what was unfortunate. We will do all that in government that is possible to apply a repeat of it.
Okay. Now, if you see some very catching headlines as related to the insecurity in the north, most especially happening in the state. Now, we have 6 alarms government on killings, and the move to summon president to explain insecurity. And the federal government has Section 14 of Constitution, that's the second constitution, that says that video heritage government is protection of high properties. Now, we haven't produced any results casting out Senator Buharis, representing Buhari's constituency, a person of Shima. There was a rule all it takes to keep Africa Nigeria. That's not something for them. That's the point for the government. Insecurity enough. Would you say that is it a lack of will or how now?
But I think for the city, for example, the parsimonious with the truth. That's it. Without wanting to sound virtually, they are parsimonious with the truth. For those who come from that part, time there was they couldn't go back there. The whole issue of insecurity, you do a holistic analysis of it. What's security? What are those elements that could precipitate insecurity? When you work and you get the kind of homologous kind of salary you get, not for value, you don't see that as insecurity? In all of these whatever areas, a number of those persons who were recruited into Boko Haram were persons who were ignorant, who had suffered squalor.
Malam Nuruddin, whose responsibility is it to secure life?
This is the point.
Is it the responsibility of senators?
You see, if you say who secures life, the totality of those who are in government. The senator they are not excluded because Senate makes law for good governance. Is that not true? There must be appropriation. Have they done oversight function? Senate has a responsibility as it. Again, do not forget that including some of the governors who have complained, the military takes $500 billion every 30 days as security money. So what are we securing with that money? If you created the enabling environment, you created job, trillions have gone into the northeast. All these resources were defecated, were peculated by those who ought to have spent.
You're trying to hold it.
Before 2015, couldn't access his home. They couldn't go. It's so chaotic or so messy. So today, we are saying that if everybody were doing, the military, for example, is overstretched. Where is the national security architecture?
Is it just that the military is overstretched? This is not the first time. This is not the first time that we have the senators suggesting.
You are using the military. You are fighting insurgency. You are using the military. What does the DSS do? What does the police do? And again, you see, there are a whole lot of issues. If monies that had come were judiciously deployed for purposes for which they were met, we would not find a recruiting ground because the cases belie for all of the confusion, the discombobulation we have is that we have nothing.
Now, Nuruddin, I want you to look at what the presidency seems not to be doing right. What some of the senators are actually clamoring for, that there should be a recheck of the service chiefs.
No, when they say
it is not the responsibility of the senators.
When they say a rejig of the service chiefs, when they say a rejig, I ask them, what are their key performance indicators? Buratai is not my man. By any stretch of imagination, Buratai, not because of these incidents, Buratai had served out his term. Because in the military, Buratai has done over 35 years.
Exactly, so that's why he probably needs to step down. Don't you think so?
If you are saying, are they saying that if we had dealt with Boko Haram, Buratai should remain? My answer, of course, is no. So if you want him to go, simply say so, don't tie it. If you are accusing him of non-performance, I ask you, what are the indicators? What are the indices you are using
don't you think,
accusing?
Yeah, don't you think there are so much indicators?
No, there are not.
We're looking at insecurity. How else would you, Madam Nuruddin, how else would you say?
You took the tiny tigers.
Yeah.
They started their struggle sometimes in 1983.
Now let's investigate this case more. Now, what kind of indices do you need to show that a service chief is performing? I mean, every day you hear of insecurity, and then you still say that there are no indices.
There will be pockets. There will be pockets. Let's take the last whatever, where those persons were stationed. You need collaboration. Not even America was able to fight Al-Qaeda the way you are talking about now, in spite of the sophistication of all that they have. You needed collaboration. What is the collaboration? If I am a Kanuri man, for example, and I see someone who is a Boko Haram as my king and king, and I see you as a stranger, you are the one who ought to come to help me. And the information I should have volunteered to you, I'm not volunteering that information. Let us not disregard or discountenance the fact that it is said that they have always helped these persons. They had always provided them with logistics and stuff like that. That meeting was ostensibly, it was not going to farm to whatever, but that's one line of argument that nobody had punctured or had been exploded. That, the fellow who spoke is a Kanuri guy, a young person who was not under any pressure when he was interviewed by channels, whatever, that we thought we were going to assist them to carry loads. How were the military, especially those who were posted there some 10, 20 kilometers away from there, know that was going to happen? So, if you want my protection, you should trust me with pieces of information. But if you are working with the person that I'm supposed to decimate in order that you get protection, things become all the more convoluted for me. Except we are saying all of this have not happened. These are their persons. And it is from that context that we begin to see the wisdom in what Zulum, the
Borno State governor,
the wonderful governor, young, yes, about just 50 years, but a wonderful human being, has been saying, engage our own people to do this work. By engaging them is simply that these are the persons who will build trust among the community, who will get information.
Exactly. Malam, now this is not the first time that we are having this kind of suggestion. I remember sometime about 2-3 months ago, we had almost a similar attack in the same Borno State. And the same Borno State governor, Zulum, also suggested that local vigilantes should be introduced, should be made part of the security architecture in Borno State. Now, all these are suggestions to the federal government. But what we see is that there seems to be a kind of an attitude that is not encouraging from some authorities, and that bothers Nigerians.
You see, when we say an attitude that is unencouraging, we are saying that there are persons who ought to assist in driving this process. Do not forget that all of the senators who are speaking now, there can be private member bill. And when the president does not assent, by 2/3 majority, it becomes a law. Has anybody done that? Nobody. They have chosen to become appendages. When they want to curry the favor, want to play to the gallery, you find them say things like this. We needn't wait for things like this to happen before we begin to reactionary. They are not responding to any situation. And I can assure you that once the dust gets settled, it's business as usual.
And of course, very disturbing too is the conflicting results that we are having. The federal authority has told us 47. Northern leader said 67. And a report from United Nations suggests 167. So why do we have...
The United Nations retracted.
But why do you think we have this kind of conflicting results? What is really going on? Don't you think somebody is trying to hide the truth?
No. Well, you see, once a thing happens, and there's no eyewitness, whatever. One of those who escaped that were among the 29 that were said to have been recovered, who ran into the bush. It was like the proverbial story of, the lion is sick, we go there to pay homage to the lion, and whoever enters was not coming out, tortoise became wise. Some persons noticed people were entering, they were not returning, and so they took to their ease, they were able to escape. All of this said, 77 of us responded to the call. And so when we discovered that over half of us had gone in and they were not returning, we took to flight. And so it will mean that it is in the neighborhood of about 70-something, 80 persons who went. And I want to begin to say, except someone comes up with facts that tend to explode what has been said by that person who was interviewed by Channels TV, that we thought when they invited us, they were asking for us to come help them carry loads like we used to do for them in the past.
Now, Shika has said that he has released a video as a matter of fact that his own sect of the Boko Haram is responsible for this recent massacre. Now, what do you make of that video? And remember, this is not the first time we're having such, kind of videos, from Shekau. Well, and we still have authority that say that Shekau has been killed.
Well, maybe he has 9 lives, I don't know. I don't know, but the fact of the matter is that whether he's been killed or not, the activities of these persons are still ongoing, and these are lunatics by any stretch of imagination. They are lunatics because there is no ideology that is provide a justificatory basis for all of the.
But you can't say so. You're not part of them. So.
I mean.
Oh, you're just trying to describe.
No. I mean, any ideology that tells you that you could slaughter someone who had once befriended you, one who didn't cause you any harm, is lunatic.
Okay.
So you don't need rocket science to prove that you don't need to be a member.
Anyway, I want you to speak on what Shekau has said. He has boldly come out to say that, look, it's myself that is responsible.
Fine. So that makes him culpable. Someday he will pay. How soon, we may not be able to tell.
Anyway, let's begin to profile our suggestions now, because the issue of insecurity in the north is so alarming. It's by decades now, it's been continuous. So how do you think a federal government can really attend to this? Let's put a stop to all this.
There are different tiers of government. By the time you say, how can? It's like a home. No matter what the man does, without the collaboration of the woman, it's an exercise in futility. Ditto for whatever the woman does without the man playing a complementary role. Now, why do people become susceptible to manipulation? Why? Is it that you are not easily as manipulatable as any other person who is? It's because there are some basic and fundamental whatever. Okay. What is the structure of education, for example, in the north? What is the level of economic activities in the north? All of these are decimal.
They are probably.
So you will now be forced to ask, where has all of the resources gone into? All that you find with those who have occupied positions of authority, and unfortunately including the traditional class, is conspicuous consumption. So there is the criminal juxtaposition of a innovative penury and incredible opulence. And so these persons are beginning to respond and to react to all that they see. I mean, if you got the kind of money you get as security, whatever, which is now open for EFCC or ICPC, whatever, and you had sworn on oath to come and better the lives of people, one would expect that we put all of these things in place. You don't need to pay a policeman, for example, if you got somebody positively engaged in what the person ought to do. So we needed to build this institution. I had gone to one of the states in the north. They were giving out what you call the compulsory charity. And so I had the privilege to be one. It was in the palace of a district head. So I got the privilege. The palace, with due respect to the person, didn't look different from where you rear cattle. Those who came wore what they were at home to work, because that was all that they had. You could see suffocating penury. And those who are governors of this state operate from Abuja. They won the election while they were in Abuja, assuming they won. They operate from there. They only come when the allocation comes to do the distribution, and back they go. And so, and I asked the question, the Sadanas of this world, if they lived this way, you would not probably have found education. And we expected that you'd scale up on whatever it was that Sadana did. And so, until and unless we address all of these issues at this level, yes, it is true that security matter is in the exclusive legislative list. We don't dispute that. But regardless of what is done at that level, if you do not allow it to cascade, if you do not have structures that will receive whatever is done at that level, it becomes an exercise in futility. And so these are the issues. Do not forget that the average security man who is coming from the federal level is already dissatisfied with what he sees around him, the poverty he sees around him. Yeah. So much so that there is hardly any way the security man will win the confidence of that person.
All right, so what you're saying today is what is probably responsible for the insecurity in the north is a lack of good education.
Lack of proper education, poor management of resources by the state actors and local government actors. If we do all these, crime and criminality will no longer become incentive, because all of these things tend to incentivize criminality.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Malam Nuruddin, for finding time to come. Always exciting time, and very instructive too when you always give us your time here. Very big thank you one more time. All right. Now the program is still this morning on ITV on independent television, and more segments will come your way after this time out. Please stay tuned.